Okay, so what I wanted to say really quickly to everyone, if you want a copy of our PowerPoint that we're going to go over that both Pamela and I put together, it's got a lot of embedded links that are helpful. And so I would love to send this to you, especially if you have to duck out early or something like that. So just put your email in the chat box and I'll get that to you. I think 3 people have already requested it.
And speaking of dipping out early, I will be ducking out halfway through, so I'm sorry I will not be here for the full session. I ended up double booking myself, which is always fun.
How many people are signed up for yours?
I don't know. Hopefully at least 1.
Well, I would duck out, but I'll be here, so.
Of course.
Okay, did anyone else put that? Does anyone else want a copy of the notes? If you decide you do, you can always wait until afterward and email me. My email is on the PowerPoint. Did you not get it, Hamid? I thought I sent it.
Oh, so is the PowerPoint different from the notes or are they the same?
Oh, I'm sorry. The PowerPoint is the notes. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I got it already. Sorry about that.
No, you're fine.
Oh, you could upload the slides to the chat too.
That's true. Why don't I just do that? All right. Okay, it's 2:15. You want to give it a bit or?
It's up to you. You can wait a little bit if you want.
So if you just, someone just left. Oh, okay. All right, so I guess I'll just jump right in. What do you think, since you have to get going anyway? This is a session on using OER in the classroom. So if you don't know what OER is, it's just an abbreviation for Open Educational Resources. I mistakenly called it online for a few weeks before I realized everything's online, obviously. So anyway, the reason I got interested in using OER is because, as I'm sure with most of you, we have students who don't buy the textbook because it's too expensive. Because why would they buy a $60 textbook when they could put that money toward a phone or going out to eat 3 times or Starbucks or what have you, right? And a lot of people, it's just $60 is $60, right? Especially for, I teach English. An English textbook, right? That's a lot of money. So gradually, what I started doing is things that were out of copyright, as a lot of stories that we study in English are, I would just upload them, or I teach British literature. A lot of that stuff is out of copyright, so I would just upload that as well. And on my evaluations, what I kept hearing was, thank you so much for making resources available. You have no idea how much it means to us. So this summer, I applied for an OER grant to use in the classroom. I don't know if I received it. We haven't gotten feedback yet, but I learned a lot about what you can and cannot do. And I also learned how much stuff is out there. I just blindingly assumed that you had to use a textbook that you got from the bookstore, right? No, there's so much stuff out there, y'all. There are syllabi, there's class materials, there's how-tos. It's so much, and most of it is completely free. So it's almost why don't we use more of this? Because, I mean, if it's there, why don't we use it? So that's my spiel. Pam.
Hi. So I'm Pamela Andrews, one of the public services librarians at Trinity River. And I got interested in OER from my job before I came to TCCD. I worked at the University of North Texas's libraries as their manager for an open access repository. So I worked firsthand with faculty, helping them navigate the different legal mechanisms and copyright issues with putting their own work online, free for students to access, or free for anyone to access without having to have a library subscription to it. And so I became really interested. As part of that is the open educational resources, because we want this research, we want all of this scholarship to be available to students, and not just students, to everyone. And part of that comes back to the things that we teach them in class, the very textbooks that we're using, making sure that those are both more accessible for students and lowering some of the barriers for students to become scholars themselves.
Okay, so before we start with the PowerPoint, does anyone have any just beginning questions? Or do y'all just want to dive right in because you have other stuff to do? That's fine too. We're gonna go with that option. Okay, I'm gonna pull it up, okay? Hold on just a minute. Okay, can you see anything?
Yes.
Actually, I'm sorry. Okay, so you can see the OER thing now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, hold on.
If you go to the view menu, it may give you a reading mode or full screen mode.
You know, I think I'm just going to stop sharing that and use Canva directly.
Okay.
Okay, sorry for my ineptness, guys. We're getting there. Not perfect. All right, so let me go back to y'all. I have like a zillion tabs open right now, so let me find it. Here we go. Okay, so now everyone can see that. It should say open educational resources with and it looks like a globe.
Hang on one second. Robert, you have your hand raised. Did you have a question? Nope, okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and hit present. If anyone has a question, just chime in and I'll go back, okay? All right, standard present. Okay, so we kind of already went over the reasons that we wanted to use OER in the classroom. I put this thing together. It's got a lot of links, but we just kind of wanted to explain what OER is and how it can aid you in any course. So I think that I found materials on the medical sciences. I found materials on the hard sciences like math and science, obviously the humanities, English, etc. So honestly, if you teach it, it's probably out there. All right, so this is our agenda. We're gonna go over what open means, examples, things that you might consider using, how to make it available for your students, where you can actually go, like the most common websites we found. Of course, there's a million out there. There's an activity if we have time, and then we'll have a short recap. So, do you want to go ahead and go, Pam?
Sure.
Okay.
So when Jerica first talked to me about her open access project, one of the questions I had for her was, when you say open access, do you mean it's just free and students can use it, access it without paying for anything? Or do you mean open access in the sense that there are fewer copyright restrictions, you can manipulate it, reproduce it, redistribute it, do whatever you want with it? So there's, depending on how you learn about open access, you may have one of these two definitions in mind, and they definitely overlap. But Sometimes you may see people talk about open access, and what they're referring to is, or they're anticipating that you want to modify it or adapt it in some way, or really you may just want to use it as is, and you just want your students to have access to something that is free. So with OERs, almost everything is going to be free, but a smaller segment of that is going to be officially open access, if you want to call it that, in that it will likely be licensed with a Creative Commons use, where you can reproduce it on a public-facing site, post it, you can modify it, you can adapt it, you can do all kinds of things with it.
Yeah, I think there were maybe a handful where it was like $5 or something to use it, but almost everything else was free, right? Okay, do you want to go or should I?
You can go ahead.
Okay, so like examples of OER include, I've only given a few examples here, but like I mentioned, you could go ahead and download an entire learning module. If you did Jeanette's Blackboard training, or if you're just adept with Blackboard, you'll remember that a learning module is a great way to kind of divide up your LMS to like make it more organized. So you could find a learning module on an OER website that is completely about, say, writing a literacy narrative, or doing lab work, even like in a science class or something. Obviously, textbooks and course materials are on there, worksheets, all sorts of stuff. You could provide subject text that can be searched online or downloaded directly onto student devices. I know I have found several for my classes. And you could even find streaming videos or tutorials. So for instance, if you use Adobe, there are tutorials available for students to use or for yourself. All sorts of things. I could go on and on about it, but I mean, like I said, if it's something that you might need, it's probably out there. Any questions? Okay. Okay, so we should be on the free for all page. Does everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay, great. So like I said, most of these are free. I think I ran into a few that cost up to $5. So if a student was going to use that, that still is a minimal cost. Generally, I prefer just to go for the free ones. But there are two examples of what free means. There's free for all that are usually limited access paywalls, such as The Atlantic, New York Times, that kind of thing, where you have up to 5 free article viewings a month. I know I go through my New York Times ones pretty quickly. So you can encourage students to print or download a copy for their own personal use upon initial viewing if you want. But then there's also ones that are completely free just because we're a member of the TCC community. Do you want to go over that a little bit?
Yeah. So with this, it's a little bit of a question, free for who? If you are wanting to design something that is open that, say, a faculty member over at UNT or at Dallas College could use, then you want it to be free for everyone. But if you're just concerned with your class and your students, you can also use a lot of resources from the library, which we promote a lot in general because we love when people use our resources. But what I'm thinking of in this instance is, like, for example, a New York Times article. If you wanted to have your students read one, you could have them go to the website and download a copy so they don't have issues with that limited access. Or you could use the library subscription of the New York Times and send them a link to access it through our website. And this also gets them a little bit more familiar with the library interface, which we always like. It also helps us justify our budget and our subscriptions to these materials. So the more you use them, the more we can justify expenses, which is always great. But it's a great way to think about if you are already finding that you kind of magpie different resources for your students, right? Finding examples in newspapers of real world scenarios for them, or if you want them to read a specific research article, you can link that through the library and give them that access. And we have a way for you to get a very quick link so they will go directly to that item. The library does not purchase textbooks, but we have a lot of books that could effectively be used as a textbook. So there's a lot of stuff we have, and if you're interested in finding certain types of things, I'd encourage you to reach out to your liaison librarian and see if we might have any suggestions, or if we might have a couple of things that we might show you, or if you know of something you'd really like, we could see if we might be able to purchase it after all and give you that free access to it. It just varies.
Okay, just pausing for a minute. My computer screen is going haywire. Is anyone else? What?
Oh, it is.
Oh, it is going haywire?
A little bit, yes.
Okay, this is great. All right, I'm gonna redo this. Okay, so let me just share it from here again, I guess, instead of that. I have like the world's oldest MacBook. So anyway.
Mac's not like Teams either.
What?
Mac doesn't really like Teams either.
It doesn't. Well, yeah, and it wouldn't, would it? You know?
Nope.
All right. So we just went over this one. So is everyone viewing where it says 007, but these are free, right? You said free? We okay again? All right. Okay, so one thing to remember when you're doing the 5 R's of openness, like to see if you can use it, basically this is going to be where you can retain it. That means you can make and own a copy. You can reuse it, which means you can use it in a lot of different ways. A lot of times with open resources, you can adapt, modify, and improve it, which is great if you're using a textbook that you're not going to use a ton of these sections, or you want to make your own notes or additions to it. I know I found at least one composition textbook that works that way. Remix, where you can combine 2 or more resources. That's always helpful. And redistribute, share with others. Some of them, you have to read the fine print, but a lot of OER resources, you are only allowed to post it. You can't make copies. It's basically, it depends on the free use. Did you
I'll just mention quickly, the major license that I think Jerica will talk about a little bit is Creative Commons. And if you see that, it's a fairly safe bet that whatever guidelines it has will be clear, and that you can likely use it however you need. With that, I'm going to duck out. So have a great session.
Have a good day. Okay, so the main difference is basically how you want to use these resources. So are you going to just post them so that students can read and view them instead of having them purchase a textbook? Or do you want to use the material within your own lecture, that kind of thing? And again, if it has the Creative Commons thing on it, you're probably okay. Just make sure you look at, usually the copyright will have something on it and it'll give you an example. So there are 3 ways that you can direct students to these OER resources. The first one is to link to the website or publication directly, where you post a link to the original source. This is really helpful for things like YouTube or other videos that aren't available for direct download, things like podcasts, music, etc. I know sometimes even places like HBO or Hulu will do a completely free thing for students. So this is a great way to do it. If there's a video or a movie that kind of relates to what you're using, so that's a good way. And you would just copy the URL into your Blackboard and it would link them directly there. Another way is to scan and upload a PDF or an MP3. This is a great way where you can use open access textbooks, again, where you can use those learning modules, that kind of thing. You could post articles, essays, chapters, even speeches or images. So for instance, if you're an art professor, it's a great way to show images that you're looking at for students to analyze, that kind of thing. There's even ways to post things to things like, I can't remember the name of it. I'll get back to it when I remember. The last one that I hoped Pam would be on here for, but she's not. Anyway, is to use a LibGuide. I don't know how many people have ever used a LibGuide, but it's a great way to add an additional place for students to get onto, to find sources for your classes or additional help. It's in a centralized area. The one complaint I've heard from students when I was at other universities was that they had to go to so many places to find materials for class. So while this may sound like a detriment, one thing I've found is that if students have difficulty at home or on their phones or something accessing things on Blackboard, if you put the same resources on a LibGuide, then they can look at those and still get their work done. So I have used it in my classes and it's been really beneficial. If you want to use a LibGuide, you would just have to contact the librarian that's in your area. I know Pam is good for the humanities. I think Tracy Soto handles like math and sciences. And if you just give them a list and they will upload it for you, and it usually looks really good. So here's an example of where you can find these sources, okay? So the first one is OER guides by discipline. So Portland State University, which is really good, did a bunch of OER guides where you can search them according to what you want to do. So I'm going to go ahead and click on it. If you can't see the URL, let me know. Okay, can you see that? No. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing for a minute and I'll share again. Sorry about that. Okay, can you see that now? It should say Portland State University Library up at top. Nothing? It says that it's sharing.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so if you go to OER by discipline, you could go, so who has an idea of something they want to do? Just throw something out. No one? Okay, so I'm just gonna go with, say, math. I do not teach math. Here's a few things you could search. You could look at Introduction to Mathematical Analysis, College Algebra. Here's a pre-cal textbook. Calculus, this is getting beyond my level, you know. But there's even additional materials like shareable course materials here, including syllabi, course activities, readings, and assessments. You know, all of that's free. Math from MIT, that's got to be helpful. SUNY, etc. Okay. So I think that one's a really helpful course or location. And it's so big, like Portland State University used this as their mission to kind of do this. So do they have to be acceptable to the math department? That is a question I am not sure of. That is a question probably for your chair. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to see if is available? I can just go on to a next one. Economics, let's see if there's anything there, okay? Here we go. All right, principles of economics, principles of microeconomics, principles of macroeconomics. Yeah, it looks like they've got a ton of stuff. Economics from Khan Academy, Lumen, also like even openly licensed assignments, see? So I think these are things that you could use to definitely help you out. It's not showing up again?
Your screen is blank.
All right, thank you. Okay, so there were, I searched for economics. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so there's a lot of different, what?
Yes, we see it.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes. Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. I'm sorry that my computer is being a little off today, or that's me, could be a user error. Anyway, I think there's a lot of different options you could use just from this site. But you know, I can try another one. So let me share again to see. Okay, so the Virginia Tech one is very similar to Portland State. If you were looking for the biggest one, it's probably OER Commons. I'm going to click here and then reshare my window, since y'all told me that doesn't always work. Here we go. Great. Let me see if I can just type in the link. All right. Okay, so this is the OER Commons. It's probably the biggest one I found, and you can type in just a book title, you can type in a subject, you can type in an education level, goes all the way up to adult education. It has community college, lower division, etc. And you could type in just different standards. So if you were looking just for things from Texas, well, Texas isn't on here, but other places are. Does anyone want to search for something on this one? Math and history. Let's take a look. All right, so history. And then we do education level. There we go. All right, so look at what we found. There's one from Rice University. They have done a lot with open textbooks. Obviously, they're a good place. This is talking about the university or the history of the United States from pre-Columbia to present. That's probably a really good one. U.S. history, American history from pre-Columbian to new millennium, ancient history. That one's probably not helpful, but Iowa history. So I think there's a lot here. Even if you wanted to change the relevance, you could probably find it right there. And you could even like narrow it down if you want to do ancient history, U.S. history, world history. There's one on law. Okay, someone said math, right? Say we want to look at math. What kind of math, Christy? Calculus. You have one? I don't know, whatever. Okay. Pre-calculus. All right, so this even has like a full course that you could look at that has unrestricted use, and it's got that Creative Commons thing by it. You know, so I think this could be really helpful, even if you were tutoring someone, say, and you just wanted to give them extra problems to do. That might be helpful. The whole community college. So I think a lot of these things could work. Okay, you said calculus. Let's see what we can find for calculus. Okay, so we've got, ooh, this is Harvard. That'd be good, right? It says conditional remix and share permitted, but it has that CC by it. So it probably has things you're allowed to change and some things that you're not.
So that should be, the NC should just be for non-commercial use.
Okay, so education would work okay?
NC is more for non-commercial use. If it has ND for no derivatives, that's the one that doesn't let you modify it.
Okay.
But SA does mean share alike, so anything you create from it, you should share in the same way.
Okay. But yeah, you could look at the whole resource if you wanted. I think that one, it says it's 57 megabytes. That one might be pretty large, but looks like it might be helpful. Anything else, or should we keep moving on? We do not have to pay for these. Okay, so I'm gonna, oh, I'm sorry, I'm sharing the wrong screen. So I'm gonna stop sharing that. Move on back to the window. Okay, so can everyone see the PowerPoint again?
Yes.
Okay, so say that you wanted to use OER your own way, and this would be, do you want to explain that a little bit, Pam?
Sure. So CCBY, and I'm sorry for all the acronyms. This one is less of an acronym. This whole world gets crazy with acronyms, but it's more like by. So as long as you say who it's by or who created it, you're good to use it however you want. So this is the most minimal, most free use copyright to look for. So if you find this one, you're good to do whatever you want. All you need to say is who actually made it.
Awesome. Yeah, and I mean, that is the one thing. Don't act like you created it, obviously, if you got it from, say, Harvard, right? So.
Yeah. What we do with a lot of library things we create if we use someone else's handout or worksheet is we'll put at the very bottom, adapted from Harvard University or from whoever.
I honestly think that students appreciate that because they feel like they're getting the same education as someone that paid $75,000 a year to go to Harvard, right?
Yeah.
You
and
know?
There's no specific way you have to do it. There's no citation style or anything. Just include somewhere.
So the other helpful sites that I liked anyway, obviously the Creative Commons, that's kind of like the go-to place, right? But I loved it because you could search collections from NASA, from the Smithsonian collection, like all of the different colleges. I mean, sorry, not colleges, museums, the Met. You know, there's over 500 million resources, and it allows you to modify and build on them if you want. I just thought that was, fantastic when I found out about that. There's also one called the Teaching Commons, and this one's obviously geared more for K through 12 or even on up through higher education, where you can use and modify textbooks, syllabi, lectures. There's so many times when I want to lecture on something in American Lit, but it's talking about, say like the stock market crash. I know the history of it, but I may not know the economics of it. So it would be great to have a lecture from somebody, Or even the New York Public Library. There's over 180,000 items that you can use for free if you're using them for educational use. So all of these, they are linked. We could visit one, or you could look at it on your own. Any suggestions? I don't want to take up people's time if we're already doing stuff. Let's see.
Do you want to show the Creative Commons search?
Sure.
That would be really fun to not just look for text, but for images and everything.
Oh yeah, that would be great. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and actually stop sharing on this and just go directly from Chrome. And I will share my thing. Hold on just 1 minute. Okay. Okay, so this is the Creative Commons website. It's just search.creativecommons.org. So, Janae, I know that you obviously show a lot of artwork to your students. Is there something you would like to search? Not meaning to call you out, but
no, you're good. Now I'm trying to think of something. I don't know, we can go easy and just type in Da Vinci.
Oh, okay.
Something by Da Vinci.
Who doesn't like Da Vinci?
Yeah, I mean, he's been gone long enough. We're gonna find. Oh goodness.
Oh yeah, look at it. We could even do the Da Vinci Code.
Okay.
But anyway. The flying machine. Okay, that's interesting because it's got a lot of stuff that people may not have known about that he did, right?
Yeah.
Well, this is giving you all sorts of stuff.
Oh, they x-rayed paintings and what you could see underneath it.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Is this kind of stuff that you might use in your classes?
Oh yeah, I found a YouTube video actually specifically about they x-rayed the Mona Lisa, and there's actually like different women underneath the Mona Lisa, and the there's always conspiracy theories about who it is, why she came over, and if he was actually painting himself wearing a wig. Like, there was lots of craziness that's happened over the last 500 years around that. So that could be a fun resource to supplement that conversation.
That's really interesting. But of course, like with a site this big, it's kind of like searching in the library, right? Where you have to be a little bit more direct or what you're doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there's a cat. Okay, so some things may be helpful, some things maybe not, but at least there are options. I remember going to the Louvre as a college student, and this is what I saw: a bunch of people taking pictures of the actual Mona Lisa. Anyway, does anyone else have anything they want to search? I'm sorry, I'm scrolling down. Yeah, okay, so you said you can link YouTube videos. A lot of times they do have licensing information, that's correct. Do you want to look at the Teaching Commons website?
Sure. And I'll mention briefly with YouTube or with videos, it kind of goes back to the same thing with textbooks. You can link to anything because you're sending students to the original publisher. The publisher is getting the traffic. They're still the site that is distributing it. They're the only site that's actually posting the copy. So that's completely above board. The trickiness gets into if you want to download it and then upload, because when you re-upload something, you're reproducing it. And in doing so, you're redistributing it in a way that cuts the publisher off from traffic or sales. So that's kind of one way you can think about it when it comes to places like YouTube or others as well.
So that's why sometimes it might just be safer just to link it versus attempting to upload.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, depending on what it is.
Yeah.
So this is the Teaching Commons that I had mentioned. Like I said, like it's got different subject areas, arts and humanities, but like I wasn't sure, like if you were a nursing professor, if you'd be able to find OER. Look, there's a whole section for, say, medicine and the health sciences, or social and behavioral sciences if you were going for psychology or something. And it shows what's popular, but even has things like critical care nursing for infants and children. That's pretty specialized, you know, or like a pediatric case-based session for third-year medical students. And maybe this wouldn't be what you'd use in your classes, but it shows that there's probably enough that you could find something that would suit your class. And like I said, there are lectures, cocaine addiction effects, that's interesting, course materials for labs and things, even a visual guide to human dissection, if everyone's had lunch. So yeah. Yes, I will share these resources and repositories. They're already linked on the PowerPoint, but I can either email it or I can put it in an email as well. I'll just do that, okay? I'll like link the PowerPoint, but then also link all the websites. So the only other thing I was planning on doing was a little activity. We don't have to do that. We can just discuss, or we can end early. Basically, the whole point, I mean, it's up to y'all. Like I said, I'm just, I didn't know all of this information, and learning that there's so much out there to help our courses, but then also to help our students was just really helpful for me. And I love the fact that I love the fact that I can keep learning as well. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I'm the type of professor where I don't want to make my lectures the same every semester. I like to learn more and keep up with the times, and it's just good to have all these resources. So, any questions? Free online programs that teach math, probably. That's something that you would just search on things like Teaching Commons would probably be the most helpful for that one. And Teaching Commons is pretty big. Like, I don't know if you noticed when we got on that site, but the first thing listed was one of the websites I already showed you, the Portland State University one. So it encompasses a lot of stuff.
I will say with my math lab, one of the things that is keeping OERs from being as widely used is that a lot of companies like Course Compass provide additional programs, the additional test materials and stuff that they package with their textbooks that are proprietary and hard to duplicate. And part of that is just because it depends on what exactly you want to test, what skills you're looking at. And so there are likely other ways to do it, but possibly not as well packaged in that way. But that said, that is something that places like the Open Textbook Network and OpenStax are looking into doing. Like, that is going to be the next thing that they move into.
Yeah. Hey, no problem, Patrick. And I'm super new at this as well, so it's just kind of, I don't know. Sometimes I miss being a student. Not that I ever want to go back to grad school, but you know, so. Well, I guess that's all I had. Did you have anything else, Pam?
No, that was it.
There is one more thing I wanted to add, and this is about y'all, the library. I just learned that we have actual movies. Not just like movies where they teach your students stuff, that's great, but like movies like Get Out and that kind of thing that you can assign in your classes, and it's free because it's through the TCC website, right? It's Feature Films for Education, I want to say. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, it's so great. So I do a film unit in my composition courses, and it's so good. You can search so many things. I don't remember how many they had, and I know they rotate, but that's also OER, right?
Yeah, we pay for it, so
yeah,
exactly.
But the students aren't paying for it. The students aren't paying for it. That's what matters. Anyway.
So I link to that in the chat too for that one, because I still have to figure out how to hook my TV up so I can start watching them, because it's a lot of feature films, a lot of like the Tolkien like biopic that was done a little bit ago is on there that I've been meaning to watch. And what I was going to say in relation to that, that's more useful, is that we just got access to Swank, SWANK, which is a platform where we're doing Get Out. That one has a lot more videos that we can use, but the trouble is we only have about 50 slots. So we're just getting the items that are being shown in class, like Get Out for Jerica's class. So if you are using a film in your class, we can likely get it that way. If you want to watch a movie just for yourself, you can see the ones that we have in Swank for classes, or you can go to our streaming video databases. And I finally found the link address that I can throw in here.
So what they need to do is they need to make an app so I can add it to my Apple TV or my phone.
Yes.
I mean, I can watch it on my laptop, but you know.
Yeah.
Third world problem, or first world problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Are there any other questions? I hope this was helpful. Thank you. But yeah, I will try, and I will definitely email everyone who was in the chat, both the presentation that has the links, and then I'm gonna put as many links as possible in the email. Pamela, if you want to send me any of those, I'll put it in the email as well. Great. I'm glad people like the session.